Do you ever do a series of raids and think to yourself, man, I'm just plain unlucky right now with low CP Pokemon left and right? Is what you're experiencing within what would be normal? Are you really getting unlucky? Well, we can use statistics to determine that. Recently, I went on a raid night and I just couldn't seem to get Pokemon out of the 2-star range. The Pokemon in question was Kyurem, and I did 15 raids. All but 2 of the 15 were below the 2000 CP mark. However, the range for Kyurem combat power from a raid is 1957 to 2042 when not weather boosted. Perhaps then, I might have just fallen on the unlucky side. But these seemed really low. We're talking a third of them in the 1960s and 70s. Maybe I was just imagining things, but I had to know for certain. Well, let's take a look at my raid night. My 15 Kyurems had an average combat power of 1989.4. I asked the question, if I did raid night again, what's the probability this would happen to me again? So, I did just that. I performed a Monte Carlo analysis, which is basically where you do something over and over again until you know approximately the probability of which something should happen. The name comes from a Monte Carlo casino, where to know the probability of winning at a slot machine, you would just play it over and over again until you get an approximate picture. You probably had a similar thought back when the Game Corner was in the game. Shout out to Game Freak for teaching kids how to instinctively understand statistics. Basically, I decided to rerun Raid Night again. 20,000 times. What if I caught 15 Kyurem again? What would be an average combat power that results? Well, to know that, you need to know the possibilities for a Kyurem's combat power. Your initial instinct might be to just choose a number 15 times between the minimum CP of 1957 and the maximum of 2042. Sadly, it's not that easy. A Pokemon's combat power is, in part, determined by its individual values or IVs, which range from 0 to 15 for each of attack, defense, and HP or stamina. In a legendary raid, the minimum IVs you can get are 10 in attack, defense, and stamina, resulting in the minimum of 1957. However, as soon as you change that, the value of the CP changes in an inconsistent manner. Let's take a look at the formula for combat power seen on Pokemon Go Hub. You can see here that the combat power indeed incorporates all of the 3 IVs, that it is also influenced by the base stats of the Pokemon. For Kyurem, those are 246, 170, and 245. Furthermore, there's a square root on the defensive and stamina stats on the Pokemon, meaning that attack will increase the combat power far more quickly than defense or stamina would. As an example, let's try the lowest possible IVs for Kyurem, 10, 10, 10. 10 attack, 10 defense, 10 HP. With Kyurem's base stats, and knowing that all legendary raid Pokemon are caught at level 20 when not boosted by weather, we can calculate that the minimum value is 1957. Let's calculate the amount of an 11, 10, 10 Pokemon with 1 more IV in attack. Now that becomes a value of 1965. Now, let's calculate that amount for a 10, 11, 10 Pokemon with 1 more IV in defense. That becomes 1962 CP. Therefore, it becomes clear that even if a Pokemon has the same total IVs, it could differ in combat power based on the distribution of those IVs. Therefore, certain numbers will only be represented a certain number of times among the possible IV distributions. Given that there are 6 numbers, 10 to 15, including both 10 and 15, we can surmise that there are 6 times 6 times 6, or 216 possible Kyurem which could be caught at random. Let's look at all 216 of them on this chart, called a histogram. On the x-axis is the combat power of the Kyurem, and on the y-axis is the number of possible IV combinations producing that combat power. Based on the combat power calculations, randomly choosing between 1957 and 2042 wouldn't accurately depict the possibilities. As you can see here, a 10-10-10 Kyurem occurs only once. That's a probability of 1 in 216, or 0.46%. If you were to randomly choose between 1957 and 2042, that would be a 1 in 86, or 1.16% probability. That's around 2.5 times more likely than the actual calculation. Similarly, there are 8 different combinations of IVs that will get you a CP of 1999, or 3.7% of the Kyurems. Randomly choosing between 1957 and 2042 would make it a third as likely as the actual calculation. In addition, some of the numbers between 1957 and 2042 don't even have a corresponding Kyurem due to rounding error. If there's a decimal place after the calculation, it is always rounded down to the nearest whole number. With these in hand, what we now need to do is to select from this list 15 times and take a mean of those 15 selections and call that a single instance of a raid night. Now, let's do this 20,000 times and see what we get. This graph is similar to that of the total Kyurem combinations. On the x-axis is the average value of a raid night consisting of 15 raids. On the y-axis is the number of occurrences amongst the 20,000 raid nights. The mean of these all is 1999.38. While my raid night's average, 1989.4, is around 10 CP lower than the average of the 20,000. But how low is that really? Maybe it's low, but expectable within the range of possible CPs. In order to do this, we need to look at how the CPs are spread. To do this, we can use the standard deviation, which is a measure of the dispersion of the values. The standard deviation of this distribution is 4.5 CP. So something that's key here is that this distribution of the 20,000 is approximately normal. That is to say, it is very much a bell curve. The probability that the true value of the average raid night lies within 2 standard deviations either way of the mean of the 20,000 is 95%. That is equivalent to a range of 1990.38 to 2008.38. Within this range, you could say that something is in the realm of unlucky or favorable, but expectable. My raid night mean, 1989.4, lies outside that range. Indeed, in only 268 of the 20,000 simulated raid nights was a mean CP smaller than this, or 1.34%. While I don't imagine Niantic is rigging the system so that my night was horrible, it certainly meant that I had some pretty bad luck that night if I was looking for high CP Pokemon. But hey, at least I got a shiny, so it all worked out.